There is no infrastructure in Antarctica. There is no... You need to be accepting of the fact that this could be a one-way trip, just given the nature of where you're going. And from a liability standpoint, the conditions are completely uncontrollable. There's nothing. There's no hospitals there. There's no anything like that.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Kaleb Bryan podcast. We've got a special guest today, Michael Higgins, famously known here in the DFW area for winning the Antarctica Ice Marathon in 2023. And we're going to talk about that mission, the journey, all about, what was the reason behind such an adventure? And also, did he expect to win it? So we're going to get right into it. For those viewing, typically this is business, this is real estate, this is talking God. Today we're talking about this wild mission of going into Antarctica and all that it takes to win it. So Michael Higgins here with me. Let's get started. Where are you from, Mike?
Atlanta, Georgia is where I call home. So my story's kind of bounced around a little bit. I was born in Connecticut. When I was young, my parents got a job in Atlanta, so moved to Atlanta, grew up in Atlanta, went to college in Pennsylvania. Funny enough, that's where my family is mostly from. So I don't know if you saw the Philadelphia Eagles Cup. I won't show it on the camera or anything. But growing up, following Philadelphia sports while living in Atlanta. So long answer to say, Atlanta is home, but been a couple different places.
Yeah, and today you're living in Coppell.
I live in Coppell, Texas, here in the DFW.
So getting right into this wild thing. I mean, there's articles about you. If you Google what comes up is, Antarctica marathon winner. But it also, the funny thing pops up is that this guy from Coppell, this father out of Coppell, typically you think the winner of an Antarctica marathon is this crazy athlete who is psycho, probably in his mid-20s, who has time on his hands. No, you have a corporate job. You live in Coppell, Texas, which is a family suburb of DFW, and you've made time to go out to Antarctica. What started you on this? Like, what even led you to the idea of, hey, I can do this, I want to do it?
So I've wanted to do it. Funny enough, I found out about the race a long time ago. So the race itself isn't new. They've actually been doing it for 20 years. And it's always kind of been this pipe dream of going to Antarctica and doing a marathon. So the race itself wasn't new to me. And I grew up running, ran in high school, ran in college. So I always loved running. But there needed to be kind of an event that really sparked me to do it, and it actually was the move to Coppell, Texas. So I moved to Coppell in 2022. It was actually for my wife at the time, her job. So she got a job opportunity in 2022, and so we moved to Coppell in July of 2022, got situated, bought a house. Life was, all things going just fine. And it was actually in December of 2022 when she approached me and said, "This marriage isn't working. I want to get a divorce." And, a spiral whirlwind of events after that, right? I'm in this whole new state, whole new city, whole new network where I really don't know anybody.
With three kids,
with
right?
three, yes. The I have three boys. They were very young at the time. My oldest was 5, and my twins were actually 2. This is back in 2022. Wow. And it really kind of put me in this place where dark thoughts started circling everywhere, right? Like I didn't know anybody. I didn't know what to do. And one of the best pieces of advice I got in my career was, your strengths are your opportunities, right? Because your wife tells you she wants to divorce you. Immediately, as men, we start going into problem-solving mode. Like, how do I fix this, right? What do I need to do? What do I need to change? Who do I need to become? What do I need to focus on? But I really turned to one of my strengths in life, which is running. And so I started running again and just going through all the motions and how to process what it would take to move out and go through the legal process that comes with divorce. And as I started running again, I said, this is great and it's good for my mental health, it's everything, but I need something to focus on, man. Like I need a goal, and it needs to be big. It can't just be like, let's do a 5K, let's do a 10K, let's maybe do a half marathon. I was like, no, I need something massive, something colossal, something where if I'm having a rough day or a rough hour, this is the focus point of my mind. And I just kind of went back to, I was like, what I've always wanted to do is this freaking marathon in Antarctica, man. So let's just do it. So I signed up for it in January of 2023. So a month after the initial conversation with my wife and I in December. So in January of 2023, I signed up for it, knowing the race was in December of 2023.
Right.
So I effectively had 11 months to just commit to this thing.
Right. And it's no small feat, like not just physically, but financially. You know, I looked it up. So my story with the Antarctica Marathon, the first time I ever heard about it was because of you.
Yeah.
So my sister-in-law runs a preschool, and your children go to that preschool. Yep. And she comes to me, and, you know, me being me, I'm running ultras and I'm running marathons, and, you know, I'm after the next thing. And she comes to me one day and she says, "Hey, have you ever heard about the Antarctica Ice Marathon?" I said, "No, what are you talking about?" She's like, "Yeah, this father that comes to pick up his children at my preschool won it in 23. I'm like, hold on. A guy from Coppell won the Antarctica Ice Marathon, and he's a dad? How old is this guy? What's he look like? Yeah, I started asking all these questions. I'm like, man, if he can do it, I can. Right. And then I looked it up. I go on, you know, onto the actual website, and this thing is $22,000, like $20,000 plus for the trip. So it's not just a physical feat, it's a financial feat. And to commit to something like that, even financially, you got to be ready and committed. So not everyone can just get up and actually enter to this contest. Part of my thought process was like, well, I bet you I'm faster than most rich people, right? Like, I bet you most people who can afford this, I'm probably faster. Because it's very rare that you have people that are doing well financially. How often they really want to push themselves physically to that extreme, right? To those extreme temperatures, to that extreme environment. It's pretty rare. So you have a rare breed that actually wants to enter into these contests. So anyway, so you sign up in January, and when you sign up, are you thinking, you know, I want to train and win this thing, or you're like, hey, I just want to do it and give it my best?
The latter, right? Do it, give it my best, and really just make it be a focal point. Because you mentioned the price point of it. It was a lot. I mean, I have a corporate job. I've been there for a long time, do pretty well, but I mean, $22,000 is not just a drop in the bucket, right? Like it takes a hit, and I would say for me, that certainly played a part in the commitment to it, because once you commit that kind of money, as you know, being in business, like you want some ROI out of this, right? Before you just drop, you know, money like that. This isn't your $50 local 5K, right? So, you know, you sign up for it, and that was certainly a focus. And, you know, the reality of it was I just want something to focus on, and I'm going to give it my best. Certainly it'd be cool to win, but I really didn't do much research on the previous runs, as far as this is people that from all over the world who come to do this thing. And I certainly would give an advantage to someone in Russia or Norway or some Scandinavian country where you have altitude and cold weather, not necessarily somebody from Dallas. So my thought process was definitely just to do the best I can with it. And again, where it really played a role was going through the divorce process means time away from your kids, which, as a father and anyone who's been through it will tell you, I mean, the failure of your marriage is certainly a tough pill to swallow, but the time away from your children is gut-wrenching, absolutely gut-wrenching. And to be able to have something to just focus on when you're not allowed to be with them, that was the real primary goal during the whole month of January through December. Was dark moments, times where I couldn't be with my kids, like, what do I do to focus on? It's kind of like, well, I mean, I did pay, you know, $22,000 for this Antarctica thing. I probably should focus on that and not lose sight of that during the journey.
So where do you start? Like, let's talk to the people, because there are some people out here that are listening, that are into the ultras, into the marathons, and that are out there competing. You know, how do you even get prepared for a feat like this? You know,
so throughout my journey, and we'll talk about this, it's funny because people, they hear my name and they recognize the event and the association with it and the commitment and everything. But the reality is, it was the community of so many different people that helped. So the first thing I did, to answer your question, was I joined a running club. Because I have ran before and I've done, you know, competitive running, things like that. But to commit to a marathon, especially something of that nature, you need a group of people to train with, a group of people to practice with, as well as maybe meet someone who's done something similar, give you some insight. And my first group I joined was the Coppell Running Club. Again, live in Coppell. They run it at the Fleet Feet store on Denton Tap. And it was, a couple days a week, logging some miles with these guys, getting to know people. And a gentleman who runs that store, his name is Paul Norris, became a good friend of mine. He's from South Africa and previous very competitive South African runner. And you look on the map, South Africa is a lot closer to Antarctica than we certainly are, right? And so I was able to obtain things like proper gear, proper just expectations, as well as training routes from Paul and others, because they have had people that they knew go to Antarctica and do similar feats and things like that. Okay. So I would say, as far as someone in my situation, where we live in Dallas, where it's hot, it's flat, it's not really anything close to Antarctica, seek out support, because there's a very, as you know, a very robust running community here in DFW from people from all over the world who've done similar things. So I would say, as far as the training goes, I did a lot of standard marathon trainings. There's lots of running groups here. Another group I run with over at White Rock Lake, the Pegasus Running Club, just fantastic runners there, always training for marathons. Running groups, as well as just meeting people who've done similar runs as far as gear advice and expectations and things like that. So I want to really reinforce that the community support that I received along the way absolutely was instrumental to the success of the marathon.
Yeah. I mean, you have to have a group that's like literally an accountability group. Mm-hmm. I have a hard time running alone, even though all my runs are mostly alone, right? But I'm part of a group. My cousins, we're all part of a group, a text message, and we all text each other our stats every single day. Mm-hmm. And when you don't put your stats in, you get called out, and you don't want to look like the weak kid that didn't do his work, that day. So it's always good to have that support group, man. You need it in order to like grow, because they'll push you. When you're running with a group and they're all of a sudden just clipping at 7:30, 7:20, mm-hmm. and they're clipping fast, you push yourself, and you find that you weren't pushing yourself alone. When you were running alone, mm-hmm. you find that you were just like kind of taking the easy road. I mean, it's incredible what a group can do. So as you joined a group, talk through chronologically. We're in January, February, March, leading up to the marathon itself. Were you entering into other marathons? Like, what was your idea or strategy going into the ice marathon itself? Leading into it, were you like, all right, I'm going to run 2 marathons before that? Or, how did you kind of get yourself in that rhythm?
Yeah. I wish it was more structured like that. It definitely was not, because the reality was, years prior to this, I was pretty much out of running, right? I have, I mentioned I have twin boys. They're 5 now. My twins were born in March of 2020. Which, if you recall, that was the spike of COVID, right? So literally, it was my wife and I at the time at home, newborn twins. You can't ask for help because everyone was scared to death at that point. It was the coronavirus is what they called it. And it was just, survival mode, right? Of just getting through day to day with newborn twins during a full pandemic lockdown. My older son was 2 at the time. And, years prior to 2023, I really was running maybe 2 miles a month is the reality of it. Like, just cow. It was completely focused on children. So you went
to 0 to full-blown training for Antarctica.
Yeah. So it was one of those things. Muscle memory is certainly a thing, because in my teens, my 20s, I obviously ran a lot, so it was there. But for a long time, it was just kind of out of it altogether.
So you were really using those first couple months to just kind of get back in rhythm.
So to answer your question about races, my first one was like, I did a couple 5Ks. I think in March and April. I did a couple 10Ks. I think in June and July. I did a half marathon in August. It was one of the Irving routes, but so that was it. I did no marathons leading up to the Antarctica one. It was just really kind of getting back into just the basics of running and running with different people and learning, relearning, if you will, strategies and things like that. So no, it wasn't really towards, I would say, August, September, when crunch time started clicking in, because I was like, hey, I got 4 months of this thing. The benefit I had was the Dallas Marathon, a very popular marathon here, ran by a lot of people in the running club, was on the same day as the Antarctica Ice Marathon. So my training shifted then to just running with groups who are all focused on the Dallas Marathon and just leveraging some existing marathon training.
Running on their training block.
You got it.
And being able to do the 20 milers and the 22 milers that same day as them. And
you got it. And it was certainly like, kind of a laughing thing because everyone's out and they're talking and they're like, we're focusing on Dallas. And I told them where my marathon was and they were all kind of like, well, good luck with that. We don't really have a dedicated regimen to how to train for that kind of thing, but enjoy yourself.
Yeah. At what point did you feel that, were you prepared going into this? Like, was there an epiphany moment where you said, okay, I've done all these races leading up to it, I'm back, and you're like, I'm ready? And when was that? Was it like September, October leading into it, or was it you were just never really ready? You're like, holy cow, what do I even expect here?
I would never say I truly felt ready. I was certainly conditioned. I did I think in September, it was the September before, I did a 5K, so obviously not a marathon, but I had been doing some speed work and things like that, and I did a 5K in 18 minutes and 30 seconds.
That's fast.
So there was certainly a part of me where I had like some confidence coming back that, hey, the running is coming back and I'm feeling certainly, very good about this. But as far as, am I fully confident to run a marathon in Antarctica? I wouldn't say I ever reached that point. I think towards the end it was, I feel conditioned, I feel ready as far as based on what I think I know. And at the same time, I'm financially committed to this thing, so we're doing it. Come one way or another, we're doing it. But it really kind of shifted more towards excitement about the adventure. That was that. I would say instead of the run itself, it was the idea of going to this place like became real. And I would sit down with my kids and I would show them on a map, on a globe, if you will, right? Like where their dad's going. They're kind of like, what? Like you have to turn the globe over and point to this. Like you're going to go there. So I would say the running itself I felt good in a sense where the training was paying off. Times were getting faster. I lost weight. Like my mental physique was feeling a lot better. But I would say it was more just the excitement about the adventure itself was probably where I was most focused on towards those later months.
Dang. Yeah. Coming into it, did you have, what was your family thinking? When you tell your family this, don't get me wrong. I talk about this, about doing it this coming December. And I haven't talked about it online at all about me doing this, but when I tell, family and friends, the first thing is like their jaw drops. They're like, what? Are you psycho? What went through the minds of your children, your mom, your dad, your parents, your family, your cousins, your brothers, your sisters? What did they say?
It was interesting. So that the first reaction it was kind of like a knee-jerk thing, right? Because here's this guy who's going through some very hard times personally in his life, and all of a sudden he just spends a ton of money on this crazy adventure. So everyone's kind of like, what? Don't. This is you hear the story about the guy gets divorced and goes out and buys a new Corvette. It's like, well, slow down before you start just doing things like that. But I would say, towards the middle, towards the end, they saw that I was actually progressing, not just because I signed up the race, but because I was a lot more healthy than I was previously before, with
mentally
and physically. Right? Again, I lost weight, and it was recognizable within people, and I had really found a new network of friends, right? Like, because you run. I didn't grow up in Dallas, didn't go to school with people here, but, you go out around White Rock Lake, you do 15, 18-mile runs together. You get to know these people pretty well, right?
Right.
Next thing you know, we'll meet out for happy hour or something like that, go to a restaurant, get something to eat, and you kind of find a new network of friends, like-minded people, positive-thinking people, and I would say my family really appreciated, again, just the journey itself. The race itself, I'd say they were a little uneasy about. When you do a race like this, you have to sign a couple waivers that, there is no infrastructure in Antarctica. There is no, if you need to be accepting of the fact that this could be a one-way trip, just given the nature of where you're going. And from a liability standpoint, the conditions are completely uncontrollable. There's no hospitals there's no anything like that. So there was certainly, I would say, some nervousness of just the nature of doing it, but the family was definitely very impressed with, one, the discipline that I committed to, just something that I love doing, and also, too, that I wasn't, alone in Dallas, like, doing a pity party thing or anything like that. Like I'd talk to my parents still live in Georgia. I would talk to my dad, talk to my mom, and they'd be like, plans for the weekend, anything like that. It's like, yeah, getting up at 5 on Saturday, going on a White Rock to do 18-mile run. They're like, wow, good for you.
Yeah, exactly. I love being able to show up after breakfast, and you're like, yeah, I just did 20 miles, and everybody's like climbing out of bed, and you're all fresh and wired.
Yeah,
dude, yeah. It's so funny what you said. Most divorced men will go out and buy a Corvette. You ran a marathon in Antarctica to help your mind, and there's something to be said about running, how it cures your mind. I mean, it's just facing reality and time with yourself, time alone, time in your thoughts. It's an incredible therapy. There really is therapy to it.
There certainly is, and it's unfortunately, divorce is not a very uncommon thing, right? And there's lots of different routes, sometimes very easily handed to people when they are going through tough times. Medications, on top of medications, reckless spending, dating apps with all kinds of ill intent purposes. So it for me, running was a very clean, because when you're running and because if I'm waking up at 5 a.m. on a Saturday, I'm not going out to a bar until 1 a.m. the night before, right? I'm eating pasta, I'm drinking water, I'm in bed by 9 o'clock.
Yeah, you don't have a choice.
knowing like what's going on, right? So I would say running, especially for me, kind of helped push away any sort of those negative, I'll call them, tendencies that sometimes are very easily handed to people going through tough times. So it certainly did a lot for me in that sense as well, because again, it divorces, especially with, not that it's easy anytime, but especially with young kids, it's very hard, and it can really put you into a dark place. And temptations are certainly out there, and sometimes easier, where waking up at 5 on a Saturday isn't necessarily desirable to most, but like you mentioned, the euphoric feeling that you get afterwards, the sense of accomplishment you get afterwards, plus it inadvertently prevents you from kind of going down other paths as well.
Well, man, like you mentioned that, like the hardship of you going through a divorce, but also your children, right? There's a huge impact, an indirect impact to your children. And you mentioned something before the podcast. You said that children, they're not taught. What was it, the phrase? It's not taught, it's caught.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
What daddy does, it's not what daddy teaches, it's what daddy does. And when dad's showing up at 7 a.m., 8 a.m., and they're waking up and they notice dad's all sweaty and dad's coming in and he just ran 20 miles and dad's like, hey, boys, I'm getting ready for this. Like, it's inspiring for them, because now they're focused on something positive immediately waking up in the morning versus, them waking up next to dad who hasn't done anything that morning. And there's just a big difference. And I think that choice of running and going after this mission, it had a positive impact on you and your children, indirectly. Yeah, probably a big impact. That's something to be proud of. Let's even go towards kind of leading up to the trip itself. So the trip, every single year, this Antarctica marathon happens like around December 9th, December 12th, like kind of that range. What's the reason? Is that because it's summertime there?
Correct. Right? And it's, I say summertime because it's still Antarctica, right? It's still freezing. Yeah. But there's only 2 seasons because of where it is on the pole. So when you go in December, and it gets I forget the extent of it all, it's 24-hour daylight. Based on where the position of the sun is at that time of year, whereas other parts of the year it's 24-hour darkness. Right. So they try to set it up in a way where this is going to be the warmest, and again, I say warmest loosely, but part of it is the timing is it's 24-hour daylight, which is an interesting dynamic. I didn't really think about that as far as sleeping goes, but one thing I didn't bring was any type of like eye covers. And
interesting.
Yeah. Okay. That certainly was. A hindsight thing I should have
Interesting. Yeah. So leading up to it, you're getting ready to go on this trip. Are you making calls to your friends that have done it, or guys that have done it? You mentioned the South African. You like, dude, do I need to bring, tracks on my feet? Like, what were the gear that you absolutely needed to run this marathon that helped you? Talk about that.
Yeah. So it's so I'll talk about the gear, and then the training itself. This was something that I would have never thought of, but it paid off in a major way. So the gear itself, yak tracks. There's a couple other type of spikes you can put over trail shoes. So
Okay.
I wore them. Maybe 4 or 5 other people did, but a lot of people just had trail shoes on. So the crew that manages the marathon, they try to groom the race as best they can, right? They have some snowmobiles they drive through, and they try to prepare the trail, again, as best they can, considering the conditions, right? But the trail shoes plus the yak tracks, and then just lots of layers, right? So
Did it feel heavy with the tracks? Like when you have the tracks on your shoes, do you really feel like you're like kind of just going into the ground, deep into the ground, like burying your feet into the ground each step, or how does that feel?
Yes, it starts a little bit heavier, starts a little bit rough, and then throughout the race it gets significantly worse because you're running on snow and ice, and as you start running and running and running, you absorb more ice. The ice melts on your shoes, and you start weighing more and more
cow.
each time. And yeah, for a marathon, it can certainly weigh on you.
And your feet are getting heavier.
Yeah,
And your feet get wet.
yeah.
So socks. So you got the yak tracks. What about
Yep.
socks? Like how do you like
2
fight
pairs,
the wetness?
So 2 pairs of socks. One, the underneath pair is the real goofy socks where it's like an individual toe slot that goes in each one.
Yes.
So you put those on, and then you put another pair of socks on top of that. I think there's some polyester, some material where it should deflect some of the water where possible, plus
Right.
keeping you warm. So 2 pairs of socks, plus the trail shoes, plus the yak tracks. I had tights on underneath, and then a couple pairs of shorts. So lower body, general for me, and I'd say for a lot of people.
A couple pairs of shorts. Mm-hmm. Why shorts instead of just like pants?
I was trying to be aerodynamic, because again for
Like
me,
Nike trail runner shorts.
yeah, pretty much. Because again, for me, running, in Dallas, right, you just don't really have an opportunity to wear a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
And I was doing 5Ks, I was doing 10Ks, so I wanted to keep the speed going. I wanted to recognize how cold how the weather was, but at the same time, I didn't want to necessarily commit to a lot of pants for just restraining and all that. And for me, and I think for a lot of people too, generally like lower body circulation is pretty strong. So I didn't have to worry about necessarily legs like getting as cold as much. Upper body, however, I think I had 3 layers on underneath, like an Under Armour underneath, a long sleeve shirt on top of that, and then a pullover, and then a jacket on top of that.
You ran with a jacket too.
Yes, yeah. It was a lightweight. It was lightweight. I think they call it a shell. I got it from REI. It's very popular amongst skiers, snowboarders, and things like that. It's very effective, but very lightweight at the same time.
Did you wear a face mask and sunglasses? I think I saw
Yes.
something like people wearing snow goggles.
Correct.
Was super
Yeah.
common.
So because it is 24-hour daylight and the sun, despite it being freezing cold, is actually very strong. So protective, I forget what they call the UV sunglasses or goggles, is critical that you wear throughout the whole time you're there.
Really?
Not just during the run, but like it's so bright, even just like walking around day to day, having glasses
Because
on
it's
is
reflecting
critical.
off the ice, so
Yeah.
it's just beating your eyes.
Yeah. So glasses, strong, if not the goggles itself. And then I had a neck warmer, which you could also pull over as a face cover as well.
A neck warmer. Mm-hmm. Did you have any hand warmers or anything?
I had gloves on. The gloves itself were pretty cool. They were the finger line gloves, but then you had another layer you could pull over top as needed.
Wow. Did you shed layers at all throughout the race?
I did not, and thank you for bringing that up. So that goes into the training part of this. So Paul, the guy I mentioned earlier from South Africa, told me about this training technique to do, and he said, listen, during the dead of summer, and if you remember, 2003 was a hot summer, when it's 105, 107, 109 outside in the afternoon, go out and run 3 to 5 miles. Don't, and be smart about it. Drink water, stop in the shade if you need. And he's like, but that is extreme weather conditioning, which is kind of the marathon that you're doing. It's extreme weather conditioning.
Wow.
It's not the right extreme.
Right.
It's the opposite extreme. But the reality was, by doing that, and I listened to his advice, and I committed to it, and I did it more times than I care to think about, and it was absolutely as miserable as you think it was when it's peak 109 going out and
you're
running.
doing your zone 2 runs in that, right?
Correct. Like zone 2, zone
like
3 maybe.
It's like two runs a week in that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Nothing, not a lot, but enough to where when you're in Antarctica and you've got all these layers on, believe it or not, you get hot. And it's a marathon. You've got a long way to go. And to answer your question, I did not shed any layers, and I never at any point felt like I had to, because I was conditioned to running in 107 degrees.
Yeah.
So if you look at the nature of how they have the route set out, it's a 10K, and they you do the route 4 times.
Yep.
There are stations that people have, and the crew sets it up for them where you can drop off layers, add layers, any of them. And people had to do that because they were sweating, they were overheating, or maybe they didn't have enough on, whatever the case is. But there were stations set up where people could shed layers, add as needed. I never had to use that, which that's a critical time saver, right? Not having to mess around with that. And I never had to use that because at no point was I overheating, because I was actually conditioned here in Dallas. So it was that is a dynamic that Paul shared with me that I never would have considered.
So you use the Texas heat for leverage to fight through the Antarctica cold.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
It really will, because believe it or not, because people, again, how cold it is, they'll have 6-7 layers on. Yeah. You run 8-9 miles, you're covered in sweat. You can't keep going like that for a full marathon.
So let's now go into the trip. So you take a flight to Chile.
Yep.
Right. And you're like American Airlines type flight. Like
yep.
Super normal.
Yep.
Everything's normal at this point. And you basically just packing out your run, right? Like this is not a vacation to Chile and celebrating Chile afterwards. You're packing solely for this mission.
Yep.
And you get to Chile. And are you immediately boarding onto a private flight? What does that look like?
Yeah, so logistically, it's actually pretty easy living in DFW. So you can actually get a direct flight on American Airlines from DFW to Santiago, Chile. Okay. That's the capital. It's about a 9-hour flight, and that's kind of more in the center of the country. And then you actually take on LATAM Airlines a flight from Santiago down to Punta Arenas, which is the very bottom of Chile. So you take that flight, you get down there. What's funny about it is, I don't know if you're familiar with the Chilean flag, but it is so close to the Texas flag. It's
really?
It's almost like the bottom bar extends over further than the Texas flag. But other than that, it's the flag itself from Chile and Texas is almost the exact same. So that's just kind of a funny scenario. But
second
anyway,
home,
yeah, right. So you get down to the bottom of Chile, and again, it's the company that sponsors it. It's very well organized. So everyone's kind of staying in this one hotel, and you get to meet people, get to hear
so you spend the night in
story.
Chile?
Correct. It was 2 nights in Chile. So you spend 2 nights in Chile. You spend a lot of time with the company because it's a production. And for a lot of the right reasons, they have to give safety overviews and expectations and logistics, because it's. I mean, we'll talk about it when we get down there, but it's different. There's no. I mean, you need to be very responsible. You need to be very respectful, because you're getting on this journey with all these other people where if proper safety precautions aren't taken, I mean, there could be serious safety concerns.
Right.
So the company that sponsors it gives you a full briefing, and you get to know people and everything like that. And then as far as getting to Antarctica, this was I knew this, but I didn't really put this all together. People go to Antarctica to say they've set foot on the frozen continent. Sometimes it's like a lifetime goal to step on all 7 continents. And the most common way to do it is you take a cruise ship.
Right.
You take a cruise ship from either South Africa or the bottom of Chile. You go there, you see the penguins, you step on Antarctica, you can say you did it, right? We took a plane from the Punta Arenas airport to Union Glacier, Antarctica, which is like in Antarctica. You're not
a base camp.
There's no penguins. There's no wildlife. There's nothing of any kind there. It is just a frozen block of ice next to some mountains. And the plane we took there was a 757 on Icelandic Air, a big 757. And it was just very impressive, that whole operation, watching these pilots land on what's called a blue ice runway in Union Glacier. Because, again, it's a sheet of ice. That's it. And part of the reason for the delay and why it's not back-to-back is there's no infrastructure on Antarctica, and so the pilots have to be able to land and take off same day. So they study the weather very closely, like 24 hours, 48 hours before, because if there's any chance of unsafe winds...
There's no air traffic controller, nothing.
Absolutely nothing, right? So, and if there's any chance of any unsafe winds or anything like that, they'll delay it and delay it and delay it.
Holy cow. So y'all were good. Obviously you didn't have a delay.
No, getting down there, it was, like I said, as smooth as it can be, right? And I would say it was at that point, because again, you're taking an American Airlines flight, you're staying at a hotel in Chile, they have
chilling.
good food, met a few people at the bar the night before, it was fun, right? And you go to the airport, and again, at Punta Arenas as an airport, you're getting on a 757, it's really nothing that uncommon at this point.
You feel like you're on a commercial airline.
Yeah, you're cruising, right? They had a full flight attendant staff and everything, snacks, drinks, and all that. And as you're flying, you look out the window and you just see the blocks of ice below you. And it's kind of like in that moment where it's like, oh wow, like this is it. Like we are above Antarctica right now. And then you keep flying past all that and it's just solid like ice, just white underneath. You're like, wow.
So
okay,
the moment you step off the plane, you're walking right off the plane, right? You're not going into a terminal.
Yes, the gear itself, right? So we discussed the running gear, but to go to Antarctica, you can't just wear pants, boots, or whatever. So they have specialized gear you can rent, or if you have your own, you can bring. And if you're from a country where you have that kind of stuff, that's fine. But I actually rented gear from the station that they had set up in Chile, and it's the full, boots and overalls and jacket and all, and then gloves and all that. And as you're getting closer to landing, you have to gear up, and you're in your full like Eskimo gear. Yeah. And yes, you walk off the plane, and it's, that's when it hits you. The wind picks up, and you're like, holy cow, I'm actually here.
Do you feel, I've heard some stories about Everest and how commercialized it is, and just how everyone's packed in a line, and just, it's just been so commercialized. Do you feel that it hasn't reached that point with this race? I mean, when you got off the plane, did you feel it was very commercialized, and it was like very, ducks in a row, and you're being kind of directed? Like how was that logistically?
Logistically, it's not there, and I don't know that it will ever get there
because it was very rural, is what you're saying,
and very, very. I don't want to say other than like miserable. Like there's no if you're not going down there to do. Because you get off there and the wind just blasts you in the face, and you have all these layers on, and you're just cold. And again, there's no majestic wildlife or
right.
It's literally just this
to look at.
this huge block of ice or you're just kind of walking on, and there's no roads, there's no pathways, so you have to worry about slipping and sliding throughout all your day to day.
Wow.
I met so many people down there, and I was very junior compared to a lot of these adventures these guys have been on, and they have done Everest, they've done Kilimanjaro, they kind of were recounting some of these other things, and they shared very similar things where Kilimanjaro, Everest, it is indeed a commercialized operation, right? It's just people that have the means that want to go on the adventure, and so they just do it. And the reality is they don't even break a sweat, right? The Sherpas carry all their gear for them. They just get trolleyed along. This was not that, and I don't think it'll ever get there. There's not. I don't know how to describe it. I haven't been to Everest, I haven't been to Kilimanjaro, but what I have reason to believe is you're maybe 50, 100 miles away from some form of civilization, where at any time they could run over an emergency medical crew or food or whatever the case is. Antarctica is just, it's not that. It is a seasonal operation because during the times of year where it's 24-hour darkness, nobody's there or anything. And the time where it is light and is operational, it's a series of researchers that come in and go. They have some camps and things like that, but there's just not the infrastructure to ever make it commercialized. So I just don't see that ever. Yeah, and I don't see it ever getting to that point.
So after they go through sort of the safety training and sort of guidance, you're put into your own tent, your own base camp, which you then sleep that first night, and you wake up and you run the marathon in the morning. I'm assuming at early, 8 a.m., 7 a.m.?
It was funny. It was actually 2 p.m. by the time it started.
Oh, because you wouldn't run at the warmest, right?
Yes. There was something. I don't remember exactly what it was. It was something to do with the weather, and when it would be more advantageous. But yeah, it was actually 2 p.m. when the race itself actually started, which, the whole concept of time there is funny because it's 24 hours the whole time. The sun doesn't, you're just, you're there.
You're just like, whatever. Yeah. It's just around the clock. Yeah.
Yeah. Time really becomes irrelevant there. But, so it's, for what it was, though, it was a pretty well set up operation. So the camp we stayed at is called Union Glacier, and it's a known camp. And it was, yes, this marathon sponsored it, but people were also there on their own various missions. Like there were some researchers we got to meet from Britain and Australia where this is kind of a known camp. And inside the camp, they have a food hall. They have a rec hall and things like that. The tent you stayed in, you actually get assigned a roommate. So I had a roommate, another guy from Dallas.
Awesome.
Yeah, real good guy. The tents itself, they are solar powered, so they're warm all the time because of the heat, which is great. But again, trying to sleep, I didn't really think about this when it's 24-hour daylight. A lot of people brought the proper eye gear. I did not, so that was a bit of a challenge.
Yeah. So you go to sleep that night. You've got your Dallas roommate with you, companion, probably talking right before you go to bed. Like, dude, you ready?
Yeah.
You wake up in the morning. Is there a shakeout run? You know how most marathons, people are doing shakeout runs. Are people out and about, like trying to get the jitters out, trying to get warmed up? Like, what does that look like before the actual race?
Yeah. So there's their traditional, just kind of everybody loosening up, warming up, and all that. And then because there's a production and the display and the media of it is also important, they'll do kind of like a mock start, right? They'll have everybody line up, they'll hit the gun, they'll start it and get everybody's photos, pictures, recording. Then they'll say stop. Go back and line out. We're going to do it for real. So, just because you want to make sure, for the experience of everything, that people get kind of that first. You can't just have like go right off the gun and somebody trips and falls and that's the only footage you have, right? You got to make sure it's like people see the whole experience and everything. But yeah, I mean, I would say there were people there. Took it for different reasons. Certainly some competitive runners. Some people were there for the adventures. Met a few couples who came, like husband and wife, which I thought was awesome. One guy is his father. It was a father-son. His son was older. They came to do it together. A lot of people have done. There's the 7-continent challenge. I'm sure you've heard of that. You run a marathon on every continent. Yeah. So most people save Antarctica for the finale, right? This is the final logistically. So there's a few people where this was their final marathon and hitting all the 7 continents.
Is it the 7 continents in 7 days? Is that the one?
Well, that is sponsored by the same company. Okay. But no, this one is just at some point you run a marathon on each continent.
Got it.
Yeah, but that one is a thing through the same company. You want to talk about a logistical challenge?
Yeah. Did you look around and you see probably just so many unique people, freak athletes, unique people, and you're looking around at any point in your mind where you're like, I'm going to win this?
No.
So let's go into the race. All right. So the mock one shoots off. The real one starts. Talk to me about like the first 3 miles, 5 miles. What's going through your mind? You're probably getting, acclimated with everything. Talk to me about that, and the weather too. How cold is it? What's the wind like?
Yeah. So it's interesting. So it's a 10K loop, right, that you go across, and throughout different parts of the loop, the weather changes so drastically. So for the first part, let's call it first couple miles, is kind of rough because that's where the most like traction takes place, and the trail is all chewed up from the various footprints and everything like that. So that, I would say, you kind of just maintaining your footing, your balance for the most part. The back half of the first loop is actually, there's no wind and the sun is out, and it's actually like very enjoyable. And then the final 2 back, mapping out the 10K, is just absolutely brutal. The wind, like it's like you're running straight and then you turn right and then the wind just blasts you. The final 2 were just absolutely horrible. So going into the first loop, it just kind of establishing myself. I think I was like number 3 or number 4. There's a few people ahead of me, and really I wasn't even focused as much on that.
Right.
I was really just kind of like understanding the course and the pace of it all. And after the first loop, I realized, okay, so on the back half is where I need to slow down, regulate my breathing, and just not go totally crazy.
Okay.
Enjoy this easy moment because the final stretch is going to be horrible, and I need to make sure I have enough in the tank to get through that.
And what was your pace? Like, were you looking at yourself and saying, I need to keep an 8:30, an 8, a 7:50, 7:45? Like, what was your
I would
pace going
say, and it's funny because you've got your watch and it's like buried in all these layers. You're trying to fish it out and everything. I would say around 8:15, 8:30 was the pace I was at. It was comfortable because I didn't want to slip and fall, and I wanted to make sure I was moving. There were a couple guys ahead of me, but just winning it wasn't really a concern at that point. It was really just establishing a pace where I know I'm not going to slip, fall, or anything like that. I feel myself moving pretty well, and I know that within this pace, I can control the content of each loop because it became predictable after the first one. It's like, so I know it's going to be easy on this back half. Let's slow down because that final 2 miles was just, I can't. I know I was complaining to you earlier about the Dallas Marathon with like the wind and the cold and everything a few weeks ago, but this was, I mean, I don't know that I'll ever experience anything like it. I mean, wind to the point where, you're running and your steps are just like progressively moving, even though you're trying to run straight. But like you look at your footprints and you're just kind of like
making pushed.
Yeah, I mean,
like how cold was it?
With the wind, I was talking to the guys afterwards. They said it was around -33 with the wind in full effect.
Holy cow! Holy cow! Not a piece of skin exposed.
I mean, it was the area around like my eyes where the face covering didn't it, and I felt every bit of that.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. So you've got a couple guys in front of you. At what point do you pass the guy that's in second place, and you notice that there's only one guy in front of you, and you're like, huh? Like, at what point do you think, oh, I could take this?
Yeah. The first loop, was just kind of establishing, right?
Yep.
And it was at the very end of the second loop, so call it mile 12. I passed the second place guy.
Yeah.
And the second place guy, for perspective, you want to talk about inspiration. Guy's name is Scott. I think he's from California, 65 years old. And just absolute incredible athlete, an awesome guy, and just booking it, man. So I passed him at mile 2. He was very kind, like, hey, go get it, like, awesome work.
I love that. I love that in the middle of the marathon, dude.
Oh yeah, no, awesome guy. And so I look ahead, and the guy ahead of me was way ahead of me. The guy's name was Daniel. He's from Denmark. Again, much more conditioned, probably. I would say climate-wise for a race like this. He was well ahead of me, so the concept of reeling him in was certainly there, but I, again, really was just kind of, making sure, like, just making sure my pace was good, and if I caught him, but it was that was at the end of the second loop, and go through the second loop, going, and again, got the kind of the routine down, know what to expect, take it easy on the back half because I know it's going to be miserable, and it was approaching that final stretch on the third loop, coming up to, I'd say, mile 16, between 18, can't for sure exactly remember, say mile 18, I catch up to Daniel, and he had pulled a hamstring. And
on mile 18?
Yeah, and he had slowed down like pretty significantly, and ran up to him and just kind of caught up with him, and tried to give him some positive reinforcement, and he said, like, hey, listen, just kind of banged up right now, but you keep going. Yeah. So it was on the final, leaving the third loop, going into the final loop, called mile 18, when I was alone, and I was in first. I was like, well, I don't really know like what else to do other than what I've been doing at this point, so I'm just going to keep running my race, and let's see what goes from there. Yeah,
and that's the pain, dude. That's the pain cave, as they call it, and mile 18, 19, 20, 21, all the way to 23 has always been like just the battle, dude. I've had marathon where I've cried in the middle of those miles, just because I'm having to, I know what I'm facing, but then once you cross mile 23, you're like, oh, I'm at 24, I only got 2 more, 25 final mile. So as you get closer, you're on mile 25. What are the emotions coming to you?
So it's funny. So it's funny you bring up 23. So actually, I'll go back to mile 23. Yeah, that was they had a pit stop at mile 23, and I was at 23, and I was beat up. Like I was at this point, like physically, mentally, like it had taken a toll on me. Like, and I was, I was in first. I'm kind of like amped about it, but I was like, I have to stop. I need something to drink. Like I'm not going to be able to make it, because the final 2 was that final miserable stretch across the back, and I was like, I had to stop. So I stop, and talking to guys there, like, give me some Gatorade, just knocking some Gatorade back, and in the back.
You stopped? Like not like a grab and go type thing?
No, completely stopped. Like, had to eat a goo, had to drink.
And you're looking behind you,
and I'm looking back, like, here we go, like, someone's going to pass me, whatever. And I look back, and there's just like nothing, just like nobody behind me, and I was like, oh. All right.
I'm going to enjoy
this. I was
like,
I think I can do it. And the guys, again, the people working there, just like, you got this, man. I mean, just such wonderful people. So look behind me, nobody there. I'm like, all right, Gatorade, goo. The guys, cheer me on, like, you got this, man, like, final 3. So left that station going into this turn, which, again, this is the turn where it was just absolutely so horrible throughout all the race, and just 24, 25, just like feeling the wind and getting through it. And, for me, I would say it was 25 when you've done marathons, you've done that, like so many, you have so much time, like so many thoughts go through your head throughout
that
all this
last
stuff.
mile is so freaking long.
And that last mile, I would say, where it finally kind of hit me, like, I do this and I win this, like, I have so many people to thank for, like, the journey that got me here, and, like, just, you just gives your life just a totally different perspective about, like, man, what a journey it's been. Like, the race itself has been fun, winning it will be awesome, but the journey itself, that was probably the most of it.
Damn. So you cross it. You cross it. What's the first message you write? Like, and you made a really good point, and a lot of people out there will agree with you. It's not the win, dude. It's not the win. The win is the result of the journey and all the work you've put in, and that's what people respect the most, because you know this. You don't just go win a marathon. You don't just go run a good race. It's the work, and that's why everybody in the running community respects like certain times, because it's not like someone woke up and did it. It's at least on the faster times. Who's the first person that you messaged?
So here's what's hilarious about that. So prior to the marathon, it was, I think, the year before, or maybe the summer before, the Union Glacier Ice Camp in Antarctica. Elon Musk and his team frequented this, and they were on some type of alien expedition or something like that was the gist of it. But one of the conditions that Elon Musk and team had was they needed Wi-Fi down there because they wanted to be able to live stream and do all this stuff.
Okay.
So they had set up a Starlink down in Union Glacier in Antarctica.
Holy cow.
And I guess their mission ended. They didn't find aliens, whatever, but they left all the gear there.
Yeah.
And the company that sponsored the Ice Marathon was like, well, can we use it? And they said, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So I share all that because they were able to, the company sponsoring it was able to post it on Instagram and Facebook and everything like that, like the updates throughout the race and how it was going and everything. So to answer your question, before I could send a message, the race ended. I talked to people afterwards, gave some statements here and there, and by the time all that happened, it was maybe 20-30 minutes. Got myself situated before I got my phone, hooked it up to Starlink and everything. I had like 150 messages from people who had been following it and saw it even before I did. So yeah, it was
unreal.
Never really considered myself that popular on social media. I was that day.
Yeah. So you come home to Texas, and you mentioned earlier the mayor invited you. The mayor of Coppell wanted to recognize you, right, as like a citizen of Coppell for accomplishing such a heavy feat.
Yeah.
What was like? I think what we talked about this, earlier before the podcast, sort of how it changed your life. And it really impacted your life. Tell me about that impact.
Oh man, where do I start? So it's a funny story of, I'd say, from the time I landed back in Texas, from fame to a incredibly ironic injury to a happy ending is really how it all went, right? So you come back and you have this really cool accomplishment, and the people that I worked with in the various running clubs, they sent my information over to CBS News and the local, and people were excited about that, right? I think it was the novelty of a race like that being won, like you mentioned, from a guy from a suburb of Texas. Like, people just weren't like, they had a hard time like comprehending that, like, how did this actually happen? So yes, got some awesome accolades from the mayor of Coppell, got to do some news stories and everything like that. And it was 2 weeks after that, it was January 15th, I was back to running, right? And going through my day-to-day stuff. Like, I had this awesome high, but I was not gonna rest on the laurels. I was gonna keep going, right? Yeah. So we actually had a snowstorm on January 15th. And everyone was, of the mindset, like we are in Dallas, like, hey, batten down the hatches, that we go out, there's snow, ice, everything like that. Whereas I saw this as like this opportunity, like, well, wait a minute, I've got all this awesome Antarctica running gear, like, what a perfect opportunity. So go out for a run, Sandy Lake Road, route I've done 1,000 times at this point, slip, bam, break my ankle. Laying on the side of Sandy Lake Road, the guy who won Antarctica the month before, like, totally busted ankle. And I had to go to the hospital.
Oh my gosh!
Surgery.
You've got your Antarctica Marathon medal on your chest.
Pretty much, man. So, that was, I would say, the biggest dose of irony to ever be served, right? So but the week before that, I had actually met a girl through the running club in Coppell, and had gone out to dinner with her a few times, and had kind of a good thing going. And it was interesting because the year before with the divorce and the running, like dating was not really a priority for me. Right. I never committed to any dating apps or anything like that. It was really just rebuilding my life and just kind of focusing on everything with, especially the Antarctica and my kids. And so started dating again very early on, broke my ankle, didn't feel like, well, let's see how things go after this. But a testament to her character, she kind of stuck around even through the broken ankle. And it's what I found afterwards, without being able to run, because you have surgery. I was laid up while I was on crutches and everything like that. I couldn't do anything, but I had this whole other dynamic where I was in a relationship again. And a healthy relationship that was founded on all the right reasons. I met her at a running club. She loves running, and it was a void in my life that I didn't realize had been there for so long. And it wasn't until I had Antarctica and I had all these accolades and I'm a runner, I'm doing all this, whatever. Well, now the running's gone. I'm laying up with a broken ankle. Yeah. And now it's kind of like,
your identity is taken away.
Yeah. So it's like, what am I supposed to do? But it put me in a position where I could spend time with this person now. And I really, I mentioned like rebuilding my life. Like it maybe just find that, because divorce is the climax of it all, but years leading up to it, there were signs, there were things that it was, and I would never talk disparagingly or anything like that, but there were things fundamentally wrong with the relationship that I was in, that when I got into this new relationship based on, me feeling like, hey, I have all the sense of accomplishment and now it's taken away from me, but I met this person and we're just talking, right? We're not like doing fun adventures or going on lavish dates or trips or anything. Like I'm laying on my couch with crutches, right? I couldn't really do anything. So much of the relationship was just talking, really getting to know somebody. It was a void in my life that was filled, and I am now married. Got married in October to the same woman.
To the woman that stuck by you.
Yeah. And I mean, it has been, like I mentioned earlier, the win was fantastic, but the tipping point in my life was the journey that got me there, rediscovering myself, and everything I have to show afterwards. What I'm most important about is the marriage I'm in, the example to set for my kids, and just hopefully if other people who find it inspiring. Like the medal for winning Antarctica, it is cool, and I'm very thankful for it. But the journey itself, that's the moral of the story.
That's incredible, man. What's next for you, Mike?
Well, I did the Dallas Marathon a few weeks ago, and I told you it was cold. And I realized I don't have any room to make any comments for complaining or anything like that. But what I've heard from, I told you the guys I met down at Antarctica shared these incredible stories of the places they've been to. And the one thing they told me was there's another marathon in the North Pole, which is that is as equivalent to Antarctica as you will get.
What is that called? Up above Norway? Is that where it is?
So I found out there's two routes that they do. The one is you take a cruise, like a Norwegian cruise, up through the top of.
It's called Svetland or Svet. I forget what the name of the island is.
Yeah, it's. I don't know if it's the same one. There's two routes you can take. The one is the cruise route, where they run you up to a large block of ice in the North Pole, and you gotta knock out a marathon there. And then there's another route where it's a chartered flight from the tip of Russia, from the tips of Russia to the same, I think it's the same block of ice where you do it that way. So a couple different routes. We'll see which one makes sense. But I think as far as adventure goes, I think I need to check that one off. I feel like that's, yeah, I feel like that's it.
Dude, that's incredible. That's incredible. Yeah. And guys like you, if they go out and do Antarctica, that's just one down. You're going to get more. You're going to want to look out for the next thrill. And I look forward to seeing it. I look forward to following the journey. Where can people get a hold of you? Where can they follow you? Are you on social media at all? Or are you pretty private?
Pretty private for the most part, man.
I love it.
I really understand social media, and I like it to an extent, but Capel Running Club is
that's where they
is
can
the one.
Find you,
that's
son.
That's the one.
Find me the street.
Capel Running Club is frequent that one, of course, and then White Rock as well. Saturday mornings at White Rock, but Oh man, I'm always open to. It's not that I'm how should I phrase this? It's not that I'm anti social media. I've never committed to the platform itself. I have a Facebook account. I have an Instagram. I have a LinkedIn account, and I don't know.
Yeah, dude. Hey, there's nothing wrong with it. I love what you do is you focus on your journey, and that's all the social media stuff. It's cool. It gets the story out there, and I think the biggest thing about it is it helps impact others and inspire others. Because honestly, this has inspired me so much. Well, the first time I heard about it from Rachel, her telling me that a guy from Pierce Academy a father from Pierce Academy had won that. I was like, I've got to do this. So in 2026, my mission this coming December is going to be to go run the Antarctica Marathon.
Let's go.
And let's see what happens. I don't know. In my mind, I'm like, man, if he can do it, if he can win, I can win. But the lesson from this conversation is not the winning, it's the journey. And that's what I'm going to embrace the whole way through. So I look forward to this year, and I look forward to following your journey. And those who can find you, find him in Coppell, find him running at White Rock. You're going to find the man in the street regardless. People like this, they don't stop. Mike, thanks for coming on, man. It's been great.
Thank you, Kaleb.
Drop your comments below. I want to hear all the comments about what you think about his journey, and any questions too. I'll probably pass them along to him, and maybe he can answer some questions for those that are inspired to go do some crazy stuff like this. Thanks, man.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you.